Hello everyone and welcome to yet another 500 point battle report. This time it will be played between the Space Wolves and Orks. So starting off on the Space Wolf side, what have you got, Jordan?
Okay, so we have the Wolf Guard battle leader, who is on the Thunder Wolf, as you can see. He has a Storm Shield and a Wolf Claw. We have two bare bones squads of 6 Grey Hunters, and we have the Relic Whirlwind Scorpius with the Battle of Kalec Relic. Or Legacy of Glory, I apologise.
Yeah, jeez. Anyway, moving on to the Orks. What do you have, George?
This is my 500 points of Orks using the Combined Arms Detachment. I have 6 knobs, 5 have big choppers, 1 a power claw, and they all have heavy armour. Attached to them is my paintball boy and war boss.
Okay, what does your paint boy have then?
He has an attack squeak.
And what about your war boss?
Has heavy armour, boss pole, attack squig and power claw. And
Okay.
these will all be in a truck.
Right.
And for my troops, I have 2 units of 10 boys with no upgrades.
Okie dokie. And that will be 500 points of Orks. So, we'll move on to setting up the terrain and rolling for mission, and we'll be right back. Right then, we've placed all of the objectives and the terrain. And this is the board. Right, so the objectives, we have objective marker 6, 5, 2, objective marker 4, objective marker 3, and we have 1 objective in this building over here, which is objective marker 1. Alright, the mission we are playing is Maelstrom of War Tactical Escalation, so it will be this end of the board playing off against that end of the board. So we can move on to rolling up then to pick deployment zones. 5 and 4. So Georgina, it's your choice. Which side do you want to be on?
Okay.
Do you want to be on this side?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then roll off again to see who's deploying first. 6 and 1. Again, it's Georgina's choice.
Yeah, I'll do first.
You want to go first,
think,
okay?
yeah.
We'll be right back then after the Orks deployment. Right, so here we have the Ork deployment on turn 1. We have a truck with the war boss and his knobs in here. We have the Ork boys pushing in the centre, and another squad of Ork boys on the flank. It's looking like these Ork boys are going to push up to those 2 objectives with support from the centre Ork boys, and as always the truck is going to drive straight down the road, hopefully to meet the Space Wolves head on. Moving on to the Space Wolves deployment. Right, and here we have this Space Wolves deployment. We have 1 Grey Hunter squad on the flank here. The Wolf Guard battle leader is deployed central right up to the line with a squad of Grey Hunters hanging back looking to take objective 3, and the Whirlwind Scorpius as close to the edge as he can get it. And that is it. A quick look at the table before we get on to seizing the initiative. So, Jordan, do you want to seize the initiative?
Yes, I shall see if I can seize.
And it's
No
a 3.
seize.
So no, so we'll be moving on to Orks movement turn 1. Orks objective for turn 1, score objective 1. Right, end of Orks movement on turn 1. The truck has moved from here up the road as predicted. The Ork boys have pushed forward 6, and these ones on the flank have moved forward 6 in the attempt to get to objective marker 1. So we'll move on to Orks shooting on turn 1. Right, end of Orks shooting phase on turn 1. The truck has moved up 12, moving flat out. These Ork boys have ran up 5 inches. And these Ork boys attempted to run to the objective, rolled 4 and managed to just get within range. So, there will be no assault phase for the Orks this turn, which means the Orks at the end of turn 1 have managed to score their objective of score objective 1, meaning the Orks are currently leading 1-0. On to Space Wolves movement on turn 1. Right, Space Wolves have drawn Witch Hunter. Because no one's got any Psychers, we redrew and got secure objective 4. On to Space Wolves movement. End of Space Wolves movement phase on turn 1. The Wolf Guard battle leader has pushed up here. The Grey Hunters have moved up The Scorpius isn't actually moved at all, and the Grey Hunters has pushed up to the building there. So we've got no psychic, so we'll move on to shooting for the Space Wolves on turn 1. Right, so we're currently in the middle of our shooting phase for the Space Wolves, and the Whirlwind Cheese has just fired, getting 3 hits on the truck. It's strength 8, the truck armour, its side armour is only 10, and it's 2 is to glance. And here we have the rolling to glance or pen.
3 ones.
3 ones. Oh, that's what you get for bringing Forge Roll to a friendly game. Wah, wah, wah. So now we're at the end of the shooting phase for the Space Wolves on turn 1. As already mentioned, the Scorpius completely whiffed to do any damage to the truck. These guys rapid fired into the Orc boys, again doing no damage. Their bolters were hitting the building rather than the Orcs. And these guys rapid fired into the truck, taking 2 hull points. But as it is night fighting, George managed to save one on roll of a 6, meaning it's got 2 left. So now we'll be moving on to the assault phase for Space Wolves on turn 1.
Sad phase.
Right, end of Space Wolves turn 1. In the assault phase, the Wolf Guard battle leader charged into the truck, failed its Hammer of Wrath, had 4 attacks, hit with 3, and then only needed 4s to glance and got 1-4, meaning the truck is still alive on 1 hull point. So we'll be moving on now to Orks turn 2. And here's the Orc objectives for turn 2. As you can see, we've got 3 cards on the left. First of all was Demolitions was drawn, which we can't score. Then Domination was drawn in its place. Now we have ruled that because while she does have 6 individual units if she broke up her Knob squad, the likelihood of her scoring it is like 9 impossible. So we've allowed her to draw another card, which Jordan has agreed to, and she's drawn Assassinate. And she's also got score objective 6. So we will now move on to Orcs movement on turn 2. So Orcs movement on turn 2. These boys have pushed up looking to charge that Wolfguard battle leader. Those Orc boys have moved through cover, trying to get closer to those Grey Hunters. This truck has spun around, spilling out the Knobs, the Warboss and the Pain Boy. That Scorpius doesn't look like it's going to be around for much longer. And the Battle Wagon is looking to be shooting something nearby. And Georgina this turn is also going to be calling a...
Wah!
So we're moving on to shooting for Orcs on turn 2. Right, end of Orcs shooting phase. These boys have ran up, getting within an inch of the Wolf Lord, or Wolfguard battle leader rather. Those Orcs have ran up, getting closer to those Grey Hunters. And these Knobs slash Warboss slash Pain Boy have run up, getting within 3 inches of the Scorpius. Also, this truck attempted to shoot at the Wolfguard battle leader and failed to wound. So then, we'll now be moving on to Orcs assault phase on turn 2. Right, end of the assault phase for the Orcs. Didn't go as well as planned. First off, these Orc Knobs charged in the vehicle, and as you can see by the cloud, they dealt with it pretty handily. These Orc boys that charged into the Wolfguard battle leader took off 1 wound and then got absolutely wrecked. And then the Orc boys over there charged into that Grey Hunter squad, killed 2, failed their leadership and got run down.
Superior in combat.
Superior. And for the end of the Orcs turn, these are the cards that I have, and they'll discard objective marker 6 since it's all the way back there. So we'll now move on to Space Wolves turn 2. Right, objective marker card for the Space Wolves on turn 2. Still got score objective 4 since the Wolfguard battle leader pulled away from the objective, and now they've just drawn score objective 3, which is right there. End of movement for the Space Wolves on turn 2. And just like any beaten dog, they put the tails between the legs and they're running away. This squad here has run away from objective marker 3 to claim 4. The Wolfguard battle leader has ran 12 inches up the board, and this squad has moved round and are also moving up the table as well.
There is method in the madness.
Method in the madness. I think it's called being a chicken. That's just my take on it anyway. So moving on to shooting for the Space Wolves on turn 2. Right, shooting phase for the Space Wolves on turn 2. Go on then, Jordan, run us through it.
So basically this turn I try hard very, very, very bad. This was comp play. So
we'll start over here with this squad.
This squad here, rapid fired straight into this truck. I was lucky enough to get 2 6s and I ended up leaving the truck wrecked where it is. That's completely limited the movement of the Nob squad for the Orks, so they will be greatly restricted in their objective capturing in the game. That then left this squad to do a run move over here. They ran 4 inches to get closer, so they're about halfway between objective marker 1 and objective marker 5. And then the Wolf Guard battle leader ran 3 inches to get roughly, or basically in any movement, he can get 12 inches of objective marker 6, 5 and 2.
Right, so just remember everyone that this was a friendly game. And moving on to the assault phase for Space Wolves. Actually, are you doing any assaults?
There are no assaults, so,
okay, so
I shall end turn.
Okay, we'll move straight on then to Orks movement on turn 3. At the end of Space Wolves turn 2, they score objective marker 4, which is right there. And a quick update, we just realised that the Orks actually scored first blood, killing the Whirlwind Scorpius.
2-1.
2-1. 2-1. This was a friendly game. Moving on to Orks turn 3. Right, the Orks on their turn 3 have drawn score objective 2 and score objective 5. They already have assassinate, so that brings their total cards to 3. Objective marker 2 is just there, and objective marker 5 is there. So, they've got to get from all the way down there to up the table. So, moving on to the movement then for Orks on turn 3. Right, end of Orks movement on turn 3. Since Jordan's actually try-harding, so is the Orks now. The Orks have moved forward to here, and their intention is to charge this squad. If they roll high enough, they should be able to wrap some models around the back, giving them a good potential for next turn making it into those wolves there. Also, with a good consolidate, they can get themselves close enough to objective 5 to score it also next turn. So, moving on to the shooting phase for the Orks. Actually, there won't be any shooting, so we'll just move straight to the assault. So Georgina, do you want to roll 2 dice to get into combat? Which one are you charging? That squad. So, you need a 6, roll it up, and you make it on a 9. So, we've got some Overwatch to do, and we'll be right back after the assault phase. End of Orks assault phase on turn 3, and as you can tell, there's no more Grey Hunters there. So, the Orks charged in, as you've seen. They absolutely mullered the squad, loads of power claws, choppy, and we've got a lot of dead Space Marines. And they consolidated 4 inches, looking to go for objective 5 and make those Space Wolves run away. At the end of the turn then, the Orks didn't score anything, but they will discard Assassinate, because that Wolf Guard battle leader is going to go absolutely nowhere near the Orks. So, moving on to Space Wolves, turn 3. Space Wolves have drawn score objective 3 and score objective 1, already having objective 3. Objective 3 is here, behind the knobs. There is no chance these guys are going to run for it. However, they can score objective 1, which is in that building there. So, we'll move on to the movement phase for Space Wolves on turn 3. So, end of Space Wolves movement phase on turn 3. Go on and Jordan, what you done?
So, I ran the full 12 inches away from the Orks with the Wolf Guard battle leader.
Tail still firmly between legs.
Getting deep into the opponent's deployment zone for almost assured line breaker, though it will mean very little unless the objective cards in the future favour that. These guys ran 6 inches. Don't know why that dice is still there, but we shall move that. Straight into that objective's radius.
So, are you doing anything for your shooting phase?
Shooting phase, Yeah, I'm probably going to run with the Wolf Guard Battle Leader.
Right, okay then. May as well get that on camera then. For
We're going an inch.
So he's going to move an inch over.
Every day I'm shuffling. And no assault, so that should be the end of my turn.
So then we'll move on to Orks Turn 4. Right, at the end of Space Wolves turn 3, they have score objective marker 1, and they're discarding one of the score objective marker 3s, leaving them with score objective marker 3.
Impossible.
Impossible. Oh, well, it is when you're being a pussy and running away. I mean, like...
all the way down.
Yeah. Tail firmly between legs. Right then, so we'll move on to the Orks. Turn 4. Right, so the Orks have drawn, hungry for glory, no prisoners, and they still got 5 and 2. So, with this Wolfguard Battle Leader still running across the table away from everything, we'll probably end up discarding Hungry for Glory at the end of this turn. And we'll now move on to Orks, turn 4. Right, end of Orks movement phase on turn 4. The War Boss and the Plain Boy are split. The War Boss is heading over towards objective 2, and the Knobs and the Plain Boy are heading in this direction. Potentially going for objective marker 5, which is just there. And maybe if they're in range, charge this squad here. So, we'll move on to shooting for the Orks, since we do have some runs to make. Right, at the end of the Orks shooting phase, everything's run, so there'll be no charges this turn. Everything pretty much run 4 inches. Hoping for a 6 on these, it would have scored objective 5 and put them with a nice distance of these guys, but didn't. So, pretty much just huddled up there. The Pain Boy, who is split, has moved off to the side to try and catch these Grey Hunters if they move in either direction. And the War Boss has ran over towards objective 2. So, at the end of the turn this time, Georgia will be discarding 1 card, which is Hungry for Glory. So, we'll move on to Space Wolves, turn 4. And here we have the objectives for Space Wolves. We have, again, another objective marker 3.
I'm really unlucky in this game.
Kingslayer and objective marker 6. So, out of all those cards, the only one he's going to be scoring is objective 6. Which, if he does, will bring the score to 3 to 2 to the Space Wolves. So, moving on to Space Wolves movement on turn 4. So, end of Space Wolves movement phase on turn 4. Go on and Jordan, talk us through it.
Basically just shuffled this guy up 3 inches to get him a bit closer to the objective, and also to give me more decisions later on in the game. And then over to these guys, the Grey Hunters. I've lined them up the window. They move through cover 5 inches into the position that they are in now. Hopefully they can potentially get some wounds on the Pain Boy.
You can just see him. And then we'll be going on to the shooting phase for Space Wolves on turn 4. Right, end of shooting phase for the Space Wolves on turn 4. As said, these guys rapid fired at the Pain Boy. He went to ground, saved 1 wound, and then failed 2 of his full no pains, killing him. So, there's going to be no assault phase for the Space Wolves. They have scored objective marker 6. Are you going to be discarding anything?
One of the secure objective marker 3s, because I can't do that. No. I will add that I did forget to do discard secure objective 3 earlier in the game, but
maybe if we weren't playing so try hard, we'll allow you to have done it. Never mind. So
I would argue actually that I had you to swap some earlier.
No.
But it's okay.
So moving on to Orks turn 5 then. Orks objectives on turn 5. They have score objective 2, score objective 5 twice, score objective 4, and no prisoners. So, with 2, 4 and 5 all being in centre table, looks like the Orks are set to score at least 3 points this turn. So, we'll move on to Orks movement on turn 5. End of Orks movement on turn 5. These knobs have all moved up to the objective and conga lined round. So if it potentially goes on to turn 6, they can easily make a charge on the Grey Hunters, getting that kill point there. And the war boss has moved back to objective marker 4. There will be no shooting phase for the Orks, no assault phase for the Orks. So that is the end of Orks turn 5. And at the end of their turn, they score objective 5 twice and objective 4, putting the Orks now on a total of 5 points. Moving on to Space Wolves turn 5. So, Space Wolves on turn 5 have drawn Recon, score objective 1 and Supremacy. So we'll move on to Space Wolves movement on turn 5. Right, so at the end of Space Wolves turn 5, this squad stayed still, shot over at the war boss, causing no wounds, and the Wolfguard battle leader stayed where he was. So, Jordan's bitching out and saying he don't want to turn 6, so we're going to have to tally it up right where we are now. So, the Orks scored First Blood plus 4 objectives, I believe, which are score objective 1, 5 twice and 4. And the Space Wolves scored 1 for Linebreaker, score objective 4, 1, 6 and 1. Bringing the total to 5 and 5, which means it's a draw. Thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.
That's why we wanted to leave it, wanted to get a draw.
Oh.